There he is. There he is.
Oh yeah. Welcome to Lunkerville. Now these fish folks here, these are hard to catch. If you need some fish for your aquarium, Triple F can get her done for you.
Hey guys, welcome back. As you can see, I am joined by my fishing friends again. I got Mike and Doug on the line, followed up by Alex, and then Don has joined us today. And what we want to do today is chat a little bit about our weekend fishing trip. It seems like we all hit some different lakes. Some folks were able to catch them, and some folks didn't catch them as much. And so you're going to have to stay tuned to see how our fishing adventures went. And so first up is going to be Mike and Doug as they fished Old Hickory. And so let me see if I can get to the next slide.
So Doug and I put in at Old Hickory Lake last weekend. So we've been changing up where we've been putting the boats in at. So we went to Cage's Bend, which is frankly very close to both of our houses. So we went out early in the morning, put in, what was it, around 6:30?
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, about 6:30 at Cage's Bend. We kind of had somewhat of a game plan in our head, knowing that it's a weekend on Old Hickory Lake with nice weather, knowing that there are going to be, a lot of boaters out there. So we put in early, had a game plan in mind and where we were going to go and, an idea of what we were going to fish with. And typically when Doug and I fish together, we try to throw, completely different baits to try to get an idea what the bass are doing. So we put in and hit our first spot, and it was kind of slow at first. So Doug, you can take it from there. You caught the first good fish.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. When you're together, you're throwing I'll call it plastics, right? You're on the bottom. I was throwing top water, buzz bait. Threw a little bit of crank. And so we were just trying to figure out where they were. And then we always try to stop, Cage's Bend there. We stopped at the front, then we stopped in the middle, and then stopped at the back. And we're just chasing the shad. I would say that we tried to go super shallow, went all the way back just to see what the shad was, where they were at and where things were going. But they ended up being, Mike, about, I'd say a third of the way back of the creek. And after an hour or two, we started kind of picking a few off here and there. They were definitely short, no real good ones until we, the sun got up a little bit and we started kind of isolating to shade. And they were relating to kind of the grass edge. And then, it was grass edge with shad. And so as you kind of started to put that puzzle together, we were just kept, I don't know, Mike, how many did we catch that day? 5, 6, 7 each.
Oh no, yeah. We were about even, but I think you caught a couple that were a little bit bigger than mine. I was sticking in around the 12.5-inch size, and I think you had at least one over 14.
Yeah, we had one that was, I think it even broke 15, but again, not really a huge fish. But we went over there. That was over in Cedar Creek, but the same, in essence, the same pattern, right? Following the shad about halfway back. Looking off the shadows there in the grass line, and I ended up catching that on plastics. So it's just kind of how you're changing up, and once you start getting a few bites, and we kind of honed in together on the color and the same type of bait, and we started catching a few. We got that one, and then we caught a line burner.
A line burner?
A line burner.
What does that mean? Does that mean a big one?
No. That means just barely on the edge. Kind of move the tail around just a little bit.
Squish it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't step on it, so he just kind of pushed on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Keeper. I like it.
Keeper. So,
Alex,
we got two of them. It was good. It was a good day. It was sun. The sun was high, and that's what makes it tough as you get to the middle of the day. And then we had a few wakeboarders and some boat traffic, and that starts to create, kind of changes your game plan a little bit too. We were finding them in some good spots, but we just couldn't really stay on the spot without it all getting kind of blown out, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we've been finding, I mean, you guys know, you fish with me a lot. I'll change up somewhat, but you guys know I like fishing with plastics. I think this time of the year, it just seems to, I you might stumble across, a keeper here and there, but there are times we're catching shorties, but it's still fun to catch shorties versus nothing. So it's been a lot of Texas rig, throwing plastics, and frankly, if in the matter of what do we fish, 5 hours ish.
Yeah.
Caught 7 fish in 5 hours. I guess that's not terrible. I didn't get one that was 14. I think just about every one of them was 12 to 12 and a half inches, but they were still fun to catch, and they were all largemouth. There weren't any spots or any smallmouth. Now, last night I got 2 smallmouth, but I fished a completely different area, and actually an area that I thought would probably hold smallmouth. And I caught 2, and they were both short. They were, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 inches at the most. But they were fun to catch. But one of the things that we did last weekend was we kind of got out of our comfort zone and hit some spots that we've frankly never fished. So we started off in some areas that we had been fishing. So what was it, Thursday night, prior to us fishing over the weekend, it was pouring down rain, and Doug and I decided to go out and fish in the pouring rain. And we killed them in 2 hours. I mean, we caught quite a few fish in basically one area. We just worked it slow, and we had a great time. And we didn't catch any hogs, but we caught a lot of fish in 2 hours. I think we caught 14 fish in 2 hours.
Yeah, we stumbled upon them there, but I will tell you, it rained, and it continued to rain. So if we wouldn't have stumbled upon them, we would have been out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, the lightning was making me a little nervous. I don't typically fish in the lightning, but I don't know. When we saw all those guys going out for the tournament, we said, the heck with it, let's put the boat. So we put the boat in the water around 6:15, and we decided to go out and hit it. And we had a good. It was frankly one of the better evenings we've had. So it was fun.
Yep.
That's why y'all were successful. Y'all did some pre-fishing.
Yeah, we try to get a few hours in each night. With this daylight getting shorter and shorter, it's getting harder and harder, especially when I don't get home from work till 7:30 at night. That's going to pose a problem.
Yeah, and it's easy for me because I work from home, so I don't have to do the Nashville commute. So it's easy for me to hook up the boat. I mean, I live, 7.5 miles from Cage's Bend Ramp, and you live a quarter mile, maybe.
Yeah. If that, a good. Johnny, a good driver about 290 down the middle. That's about how far away I live from Cage's Bend.
On a good day for me.
Downhill, downwind, right, Johnny?
Yeah. Alex, I know you fished some at Old Hickory. Does those places that they mentioned sound familiar? Have you fished any of those areas?
I have not. Those are a little upriver of where I normally fish. I really just stick around flippers and downstream of there for the most part. But I've always wanted to go a little further upriver, even further than those creeks, just because it intrigues me. But no, I haven't fished in those places before.
Yeah. What about you, Don? Has they sold you on Old Hickory yet? I know you've fished out there maybe a handful of times and haven't had much luck.
Yeah, that's it. I think my next plan is to hook up with Mike and let him show me around a little bit.
Happy to.
The last time I was up there, I didn't have the best in the world of mapping, and I got into some really shallow water really quickly.
That's easy to do.
I got to tell you, the good Lord was looking out for me. I just went from 30 feet to about 2 feet in the space of 20 yards, and so now I'm a little bit nervous. I got better mapping now, so I feel pretty good that I could do it. But it always makes me feel better when I can get on a boat with somebody's got a little experience and make sure that I don't get myself into trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have a lot more logs and whatnot, I feel like, than Percy Priest. Don, we have to watch out for rocks, I feel like, on Main Lake and whatnot. And then at Old Hickory, they just have a bunch of old timber and whatnot.
Well, one of the things that I found, I've been living here, this is my 4th year fully fishing and living close to Old Hickory and fishing it. This is the first year I'm really starting to feel comfortable and not worried about losing my lower unit or, tearing up my prop. And again, it's following your map and getting comfortable. And frankly, I'm staying in the main river channel, staying in between the buoys and not veering off unless you really know where you're going or looking for the smaller red and green buoys and then cutting up those creek channels and then creeping in. I mean, but getting to know it better. And quite frankly, with Doug living so close by, we've decided that we want to learn that lake better. I mean, I know a lot of guys have been fishing it for a lot of years and have done very well. it's so close to home that I can't help but have to figure out something at Old Hickory.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've spent enough time talking about Old Hickory. I want to switch to like I feel like a totally different lake. While you all was fishing Old Hickory, I think Alex, you hit up Percy Priest with one of the guys you met fishing the BFL or something like that.
So no, I met Brett on Facebook, Brett Michaels.
Oh, nice.
He actually reached out to me about some fishing in Birmingham where I used to live, and I gave him some tips about a little river down there. So we kind of hooked up when he came back in town and fished Priest last week. It was a Thursday evening. We went out of Elm Hill, so the little pay ramp down there, super nice, convenient, easy launch. Water was really high, which made it tough to get the boat back on the trailer. It was probably 2 or 3 foot high with all this rain we've been getting.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was interesting, but not bad as far as the water goes. It was clear, like Percy Priest usually is, and we basically shot directly across the lake from Elm Hill to Suggs Creek. So I've fished in there a little bit. I've caught some good fish in there, and just wanted to see what was happening. We didn't go super far back. We probably went about halfway back and just started fishing normal summertime stuff. We fished drop-offs and points, transition points on your map. When you see the contour lines, if you have them shaded like Brett did, you can see the different colors and different depths, and so you can kind of put your boat on a transition point from 10 to 15 or 10 to 8 or 5 to 8 or whatever it is, and go along that while you're going along the bank and fish that. So we fished anywhere from 0 feet. I mean, we're throwing up shallow, throwing top water and a fluke like I really like to. Fishing crankbaits, 8 to 10 feet. Fishing a drop shot out in 15 like I like to do as well. And didn't have great success on bass. You guys see that picture of that nice cat that I caught, but I think I caught one on a DT8. I think Brett caught a couple on a Texas rig crawl, but that catfish I caught was on a point, very obvious point. He was probably sitting in about 10 foot of water, and I caught him on a DT10, as you saw in, I don't know if you showed that first slide, Johnny, but he crushed it. I mean, it was like, it could not have been further back in his throat.
Do you know it was a catfish when you got it, or?
It took about 2 seconds to figure out without those head shakes. Cats they're not going to throw the bait around or anything. They really just dig straight down. And while a bass is going to sit there and, try to shake the bait out, catfish just kind of goes back side to side and just slowly kind of flounders up because they're just not going to fight like a bass will. So overall, not an incredible day of bass fishing, but it's always fun to crank on a big old cat. So
nice. What is it you like about that DT10 so much? I feel like I got dug on the Rapalas or Rapalas DT series. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts and Doug's thoughts, because since he's just recently started throwing them, about that lure versus like a 6XD or something like that, or Guggen.
Yeah. Part of it for me is just the simplicity of the naming. So a 6XD doesn't dive 6 feet. It dives, I don't even know. What is it, 12, 15 feet, something like that?
Yeah.
So part of it to me is I'm a simple guy, a DT6 goes 6 feet. You might go 6.5, it might go 7 if you're on like 10-pound line or whatever, but a DT10 goes 10. So when I pick that thing up and I'm looking at my map, I know that, hey, if I'm in 10 feet, if I make a long enough cast, I'm going to hit the bottom. And that's what I want when I'm cranking. Part of it is just a straight up confidence thing. I love those crankbaits. You guys most of you have fished with me, and I've got a DT tied on year round, whether it's a 4, a 10, I've got 20s. I mean, I'll fish them in every depth. It's just a confidence thing for me. What about you, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes to a profile. There's something about the Rapala that just makes it go a little bit different. I do like the naming convention, just kind of like you mentioned, but there's also a few colors. I guess I'm getting older and older, and I remember some of them just they've got the same shad color, same colors that they've had for many, many years, and it's a memory thing. I remember catching fish on those, whether it was a jointed Rapala way back in the day or whatever it may be. It's about confidence, right? Throw what you're confident in, because it's a big difference when you're cranking along and you go through a little dry spell. You kind of go, well, there's just nothing going on. It's got to be the bait. A lot of times just keep that confidence up, and that's what it is for me in Rapala and the DTs. So you kind of brought it back. I used to throw them. They weren't DT10s at that time, but I think it's it's definitely a productive bait.
Yeah.
Alex, you've sold me. I keep one tied on all the time now. I've tried different colors, but Alex, I fished with you, a lot now, and watching you crank, and I crank a lot more today than I did a year ago.
Yeah, it's not as necessarily an overlooked tactic nowadays, but definitely with the importance and with the emergence of forward-facing sonar in the pro world, you just don't see it as much anymore. Now, this last tournament on Cayuga, it's a big deal, cranking those grass ledges or grass ends. But it's something that you can cover a lot of water. You can cover different depths. It's just it's a great versatile technique. You can do it in almost any condition. That's the other great thing about it is year round, any condition, you will find a crankbait that will work for what you're fishing.
Yeah, and there's nothing like bouncing off a rock, and then all of a sudden the fish comes up and nails it after you bounced it off a rock.
Absolutely.
Hey, Alex, this time of year, what's your favorite color scheme on a crankbait this time of year for Percy Priest?
For Percy Priest, so I caught that fish on citrus shad, which is just an all-time confidence color for me, even in clear water. Fishing deeper like that, there's something about chartreuse that those fish just hone in on, whether it's an XD or a Berkeley or whatever it is, whatever kind of crankbait it is. Something about that chartreuse color in the summer. Their metabolism is high. They can see it real well in the water, and it still mimics a shad without being, an obnoxious color. So I love citrus shad, but honestly, on Percy Priest, like I was throwing with in my video with these guys last weekend or 2 weekends ago, I guess. Silver, that old school silver color, that was one of the first colors that Rapala ever came out with.
Yeah.
That's probably what I've caught the most fish on in my life is a DT6 in silver.
Yeah, that's the color.
Yeah, I feel like too it represents like the threadfin shad and the gizzard shad well, which are the main forage out on Priest, and so I think that
Exactly.
that color profile has a lot to do with it.
Yep, definitely.
So, all right, thanks, Alex. Actually, before we go to Don to talk a little bit about woods, you were talking about throwing a fluke. I feel like you did a great video of fishing another lake. I'll let you do a quick plug on that, and then we'll go to Don.
Yeah, one of the things that I love to do is throw a weightless fluke, like a topwater, very similar, but it's just under the surface. And this video that Johnny's talking about, I went down to the Coosa River, to Lay Lake, way upriver, and caught a bunch of striper. Actually put out a second video, caught my PB spot, not on a fluke, but still a great video. So if you guys check that out, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description because it made me want to get out there. So
It's a lot of fun. So fit it.
Yeah, Alex has got me sold on going out and do a little striper fishing.
Tell you what, when they hit that fluke, it's a blast. So.
all right. And then I'll let Don talk a little bit about his trips down to Woods, and then I'll give my recap. I feel like, Don, this is not a lake that we normally fish. I think you took some extra days off and was hitting a bunch of lakes. And so what boat ramp did you launch from?
We went over to the Franklin County Park boat ramp.
Yeah, I think
it's the one on far to the west of the lake, closer to the dam end.
Yeah.
That's a really good lake or a good ramp. Because it's not nearly as busy. A lot of your tournament guys are coming out of the main ramp right over there by the AEDC highway, so it gets really crowded sometimes early in the morning. And that Franklin County just doesn't get used a lot. So, and it's close to the dam end, which I like to fish.
Yeah, and you mentioned you lived in Murfreesboro, so how long is that drive from Murfreesboro for you?
I can be on the water from my house here in Murfreesboro in about 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
No, it's really not. And we had a good time. We didn't get on the water till about 7 in the morning, which is a little late. Usually I'm out there around 6 to get that top water bite. My experience on Woods has been that on the days, if there's a lot of cloud cover, I have my best luck on Woods. On the days when it's our bluebird skies, they're just a lot harder to bring off of there on that end of the lake. We went down and we fished by the dam on either end. And I'll say this year, there is more grass on Woods than I've ever seen.
Yeah, you can see one of those pictures I have. I thought that was a good summary of my trip.
Yeah, there was a ton of grass, and I just felt like we got there a little late for the top water bite over the top of that grass, because that grass was on the east end of the lake. There was a large patch of it, and that grass was probably 8 to 12 inches under the top of the water. It would have been perfect to run. We ran some spinner baits and stuff through there, but I really felt like we were just a little late, getting there for that. We fished there, and then we came back over to one of the islands that's just before you get over to the AEDC highway on the bridge there. We got a couple of small bites there on small plastics, but I think they were just probably brim or something. They just wouldn't take it. I think they're small. So finally we ended up, the sun came out, it got hot, and we went over and fished underneath the bridge there to the AEDC. We brought 6 into the boat there. All of them were on soft plastics, little baby brush hog. They're fishing it super slow, right at the shade line and around the bottom of the pillars. And there was apparently a kayak tournament going on because there were like 3 kayak guys who came over next to us.
Oh, wow.
And they were catching them in about 30 foot of water on just a spoon. They were just throwing that flutter spoon and letting it go to the bottom. And but none of them were real big. I mean, a pound and a half probably for most of them. And so we wrapped up our day around 11 o'clock probably. Just a slow day of fishing. It was warm out there, no doubt. So that was kind of how our day went.
Yeah, I'm surprised Mike's not getting no more giddy, man. It's a soft plastic bridge, man. That has Mike's name all over it. He's like, man, instead of baby brush hog, I'd have been throwing a lizard.
Don, how did you rig that baby brush hog?
On a Texas rig, and I don't peg the weight. And I throw it on about a 12-pound line with a 3/8 ounce slip sinker.
Man, you're singing my tune.
All right, won't we have a quick discussion about that, like pegging the weight for a Texas rig? Don, is it just because there's just one more thing for you to do, or do you feel like the action is different if you don't peg it?
I think it's completely different if you don't peg. I really like, when I throw that on a slack line, I really feel like that sinker gets down there first and brings that brush hog down. And then once it's on the bottom, when you hop it up and that sinker gets down there fast, it really lets that brush hog settle a little slower, a lot more natural action for me. And I don't find that I get hung up any more often when it's unpegged than when I've had them pegged. So I just really like the action better. I seem to have better reaction to them on the fall. Most of my fish on that brush hog, when it's not pegged, have come on the fall.
Nice.
And I use a stop when I'm throwing a tube jig on a Texas rig. But if I'm throwing a lizard or a worm or a brush hog, I don't peg it either. But a lot of times on a larger tube jig, I'll about 6 inches up, I'll put a stop on there.
Alex, you love throwing a tube jig, huh?
Right.
I don't think I even own a tube jig.
I have like 3 in my box because of Mike. Not to say I've ever thrown them, but
I was gonna say, do they come out of your box?
not very often. But that's one thing I'd like to learn this year.
I caught my personal best smallmouth, 6.5 pounds on a tube jig on Kentucky Lake.
I got nothing against it, but I peg my weight usually most of the time because fishing as a co-angler, if we're close quarters flipping, I love to have that peg on there because I feel like it keeps my presentation intact. I'm not worried about the line or the weight slipping down the line as I'm trying to make a precise cast in between where my boater is flipping. And then whenever we go out deep, I'll slip that peg up a couple inches and I'll get not the same exact action as you guys are saying, because what you're saying is true, definitely, that the action is different when that peg isn't on there. But I feel like if you slip that peg up a little bit, you get similar action to not having it at all. And that's just one more thing for me to do, like Johnny was saying. So I peg it 99% of the time.
Alex, what do you peg yours with?
Just a standard bobber stop.
Okay.
I'll be right back, boys. I gotta let my dog out. He's standing by the door.
What about you, Doug? I don't feel like I see you throw a Texas rig much.
I'm more of a weightless Cinco, or put a little bit of some sort of weight in the Cinco just to give it a little bit, like a 1/32 or something. Just depends on where it's at. Wacky rig it. I am big into the I'll call it shaky head or finesse. But if I am throwing a Texas rig, it's odd. I really go through phases, and it's kind of odd. I think if it's a worm or some sort of straight bait, I'm not pegging it. But if it's something with a lot of appendages, if you will, I try to move it out, 2-3 inches. It's interesting. Alex mentioned that. if you give it a little bit of space and it has a little bit of arms and a little bit more movement, I think it does help. But you know, I am not a Texas rig. It's not my go-to, if you will. So I've done it both ways, probably 50-50.
Yeah, you just gotta wait to watch us catch some big ones and then give it a try.
Well,
I'll tell you guys that the two spots that I caught in my last video, which were above and just at 4 pounds, that weight was not pegged because I wasn't supposed to be flipping that day.
Just got to make the best of the situation, right?
So you can't catch them either way. I don't think
Oh yeah.
I don't think it is the rule, you know.
No.
But
So Johnny, we talked a little earlier too about boat launches and safety, kind of how the condition the launches are in. I will tell you that Bull Creek by Flippers is a great boat launch. It's double wide. There's several docks there, floating docks. It's safe. I've never had any issues over there. Station Camp Creek is another one that it's a good ramp, and there's a decent parking lot there, and it's well lit, and there's a lot of traffic around there because it's right off of Nashville Pike. So I think it's safe there to leave your car. And then Cage's Bend is another one. Doug and I were just talking about it last week that we feel pretty safe leaving our vehicles there. There's a campground right there, and there's typically people around. So those 3 locations I can vouch for. I feel pretty comfortable with, and they're good launches.
Nice. Thanks for the information. All right, I'll give a quick summary on mine because it wasn't much of a fishing summary to give. You know, I launched from the same boat ramp as Don. I must have just barely missed it because I think I launched around 6:45 and you know, fished not too far from you around the dam. But you know, we tried to run the typical summer patterns and you know, fish some riprap, fish some points, and all other good stuff. And didn't have much luck. And I think my brother caught a nice little bass off some riprap, and he caught the catfish. I feel like we always catch a catfish on our trips. And you know, late in the day, I was able to finally get one off some grass. You know, close to that boat ramp there, Don. I don't know if you remember that little island there, but
Yep.
it was wild to just kind of swim in a you know, Mike's favorite lure, you know, lizard. That's when the fishing's tough for me, is when I'm like dragging this lizard around and saw my line moving another way. I'm like, oh, I think that's a fish. So leaned into it, and she was there. But I only fished it for like 4 hours. I was like, after pulling up all this grass and being frustrated, you know, fishing around kayakers and other boats. I mean, that lake is kind of small. Don't you agree, Don? And then I felt like there was a lot of people out there for what it was. And so I'm like,
Yeah, you know, there's a fair number of fishermen, but you know, one thing that I don't see is not a lot of wake boats, not a lot of jet skis, not a lot of the problem people. I mean, there's most of the people out there. It's either a small pontoon boat or there's somebody out there fishing. So I'm okay with that because, you know, especially in the summer, how bad Priest can be with some of our pleasure boats. And man, it's just tough if you're fishing shallow, you're 10 foot off the bank and here comes a wake boat and a 3 foot wake slowing your way.
yeah. Again, if you're still watching, thank you. If you want to see more videos like this and want us to talk about different lakes and what we're using and whatnot, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Alex is the only one that has a channel on here at the moment. Give you a moment to plug that, and we'll close out the video.
Yeah, guys, my channel is Alex Roberts Fishing. Super hard to find. I know, super creative, but I do tournament videos. You know, I fish a bunch of tournaments throughout the state of Alabama and Tennessee, so some interesting stuff there. I fish ponds, do fun stuff, creeks. I just do all sorts of fishing, so I've got big plans. I know me and Johnny have been talking all week about how we can really kick our channels into the next gear, so would appreciate you guys checking it out.
Cool.
And I can vouch for both of you guys put out some great videos, and your last couple of videos, both of you guys have been really good. I was working out at lunch today, and Alex, I was watching your latest video. It kept my attention. It was a good video.
Cool.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, we're gonna close out this video. Make sure you maybe we'll have a good video talking about Gunnersville. So until next time, guys.